Chapter 12 of Tristram Shandy, Volume 1. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Julie van Wallichem. The Life and Opinions of Tristram Shandy, Gentleman, Volume 1, by Lawrence Sterne. Chapter 12. The mortgager and mortgagee differ the one from the other, not more in length of purse than the jester and jestee do in that of memory. But in this the comparison between them runs, as the scholiasts call it, upon all four, which by the by is upon one or two legs more than some of the best of Homers can pretend to, namely, that the one raises a sum and the other a laugh at your expense, and think no more about it. Interest, however, still runs on in both cases, the periodical or accidental payment of it just serving to keep the memory of the affair alive, till at length, in some evil hour, pop comes a creditor upon each, and by demanding principal upon the spot, together with full interest to the very day, makes them both feel the full extent of their obligations. As the reader, for I hate your riffs, has a thorough knowledge of human nature, I need not say more to satisfy him that my hero could not go on at this rate without some slight experience of these incidental mementos. To speak the truth, he had wantonly involved himself in a multitude of small book debts of this stamp, which, notwithstanding Eugenius's frequent advice, he too much disregarded, thinking that as not one of them was contracted through any malignancy, but on the contrary, from an honesty of mind and a mere jocundity of humour, they would all of them be crossed out in course. Eugenius would never admit this, and would often tell him that one day or other he would certainly be reckoned with, and he would often add, in an accent of sorrowful apprehension, to the uttermost might. To which Yorick, with his usual carelessness of heart, would as often answer with a pshaw, and if the subject was started in the fields, with a hop, skip, and a jump at the end of it, but if close pent up in the social chimney-corner, where the culprit was barricaded in with a table and a couple of arm-chairs, and could not so readily fly off in a tangent, Eugenius would then go on with his lecture upon discretion, in words to this purpose, though somewhat better put together. Trust me, dear Yorick, this unwary pleasantry of thine will sooner or later bring thee into scrapes and difficulties, which no afterwit can extricate thee out of. In these sallies too oft I see it happens that a person laughed at considers himself in the light of a person injured, with all the rights of such a situation belonging to him, and when thou viewest him in that light too, and reckons up his friends, his family, his kindred and allies, and musters up with them the many recruits which will listen to him from a sense of common danger, 'tis no extravagant arithmetic to say, that for every 10 jokes thou hast got 100 enemies, and till thou hast gone on and raised a swarm of wasps about thy ears, and art half stung to death by them, thou wilt never be convinced it is so. I cannot suspect it in the man whom I esteem, that there is the least spur from spleen or malevolence of intent in these sallies. I believe and know them to be truly honest and sportive. But consider, my dear lad, that fools cannot distinguish this, and that knaves will not, and thou knowest not what it is either to provoke the one or to make merry with the other. Whenever they associate for mutual defence, depend upon it, they will carry on the war in such a manner against thee, my dear friend, as to make thee heartily sick of it and of thy life too. Revenge from some baneful corner shall level a tale of dishonour at thee, which no innocence of heart or integrity of conduct shall set right. The fortunes of thy house shall totter, thy character, which led the way to them, shall bleed on every side of it, thy faith questioned, thy works belied, thy wit forgotten, thy learning trampled on. To wind up the last scene of thy tragedy, cruelty and cowardice, twin ruffians, hired and set on by malice in the dark, shall strike together at all thy infirmities and mistakes. The best of us, my dear lad, lie open there, and trust me, Yorick, when to gratify a private appetite it is once resolved upon that an innocent and a helpless creature shall be sacrificed, 'tis an easy matter to pick up sticks anew from any thicket where it has strayed, to make a fire to offer it up with. Yorick scarce ever heard the sad vaticination of his destiny read over to him, but with a tear stealing from his eye, and a promissory look attending it, that he was resolved, for the time to come, to write his tit with more sobriety. But alas, too late. A grand confederacy with and at the head of it was formed before the first prediction of it. The whole plan of the attack, just as Eugenius had foreboded, was put in execution all at once, with so little mercy on the side of the allies, and so little suspicion in Yorick of what was carrying on against him, that when he thought, good easy man, full surely preferment was o'er-ripening, they had smote his root, and then he fell, as many a worthy man had fallen before him. Yorick, however, fought it out with all imaginable gallantry for some time, till, overpowered by numbers and worn out at length by the calamities of the war, but more so by the ingenuous manner in which it was carried on, he threw down the sword, and though he kept up his spirits and appearance to the last, he died, nevertheless, as was generally thought, quite broken-hearted. What inclined Eugenius to the same opinion was as follows. A few hours before Yorick breathed his last, Eugenius stepped in with an intent to take his last sight and last farewell of him. Upon his drawing Yorick's curtain, and asking how he felt himself, Yorick, looking up in his face, took hold of his hand, and after thanking him for the many tokens of his friendship to him, for which, he said, if it was their fate to meet hereafter, he would thank him again and again, he told him he was within a few hours of giving his enemies the slip for ever. "I hope not," answered Eugenius, with tears trickling down his cheeks, and with the tenderest tones that ever man spoke. "I hope not, Yorick," said he. Yorick replied with a look up and a gentle squeeze of Eugenius's hand, and that was all, but it cut Eugenius to his heart. "Come, come, Yorick," quoth Eugenius, wiping his eyes, and summoning up the man within him, "my dear lad, be comforted. Let not all thy spirits and fortitude forsake thee at this crisis when thou most wants them. Who knows what resources are in store, and what the power of God may yet do for thee?" Yorick laid his hand upon his heart, and gently shook his head. "For my part," continued Eugenius, crying bitterly as he uttered the words, "I declare I know not, Yorick, how to part with thee, and would gladly flatter my hopes," added Eugenius, cheering up his voice, "that there is still enough left of thee to make a bishop, and that I may live to see it." "I beseech thee, Eugenius," quoth Yorick, taking off his nightcap as well as he could with his left hand, his right being still grasped close in that of Eugenius, "I beseech thee to take a view of my head." "I see nothing that ails it," replied Eugenius. "Then alas, my friend," said Yorick, "let me tell you that 'tis so bruised and misshapen with the blows which and some others have so unhandsomely given me in the dark, that I might say with Sancho Panza, that should I recover, and Midas thereupon be suffered to rain down from heaven, as thick as hail, not one of them would fit it." Yorick's last breath was hanging upon his trembling lips, ready to depart, as he uttered this. yet still it was uttered with something of a Cervantic tone, and as he spoke it Eugenius could perceive a